What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into, a version of the Daily Juice that is not normally heard or seen on the day of. How are you? I'm your host, Matt Peralt, here normally every morning, normally on the BettingPros YouTube channel, and normally where you get your audio podcasts. You guys can follow me across all of my socials at Sports Talk Matt. And if you guys haven't been following me, you probably don't know why this podcast has not been seen or heard from since Saturday night. So let me give you a quick update as to where I am health-wise and tell you a bit about what's going to happen here for me over the next couple of days. If I'm talking slowly or I take a breath or a break for a second, understand that what has happened to me is pretty serious. So about a month ago, I developed a heart condition called PVCs, which is essentially just an extra beat of your heart. It's not significant, but it can be significant if other things happen. That other thing that happened was a pretty nasty COVID-19 infection. If you guys remember, I was in the hospital overnight for COVID because, COVID is serious. And I know people like to downplay it, but it can be serious. And one of the things that COVID can do is COVID can cause blood clots. Unfortunately, that's what happened to me because on Saturday night, I woke up with a blood clot in my brain, which is known as a stroke or a TIA, which is a mini stroke. Luckily, my stroke was quick. It was only for a couple of minutes. The blockage dissolved, and I was able to regain control of my body. But for the better part of 15 minutes, I lost control of half my body in the middle of the night. I was rushed to the hospital. They did a litany of tests on me, and so far, the working theory is that this blood clot was due to my blood becoming thicker due to the COVID-19 virus. And as COVID leaves my body, I should be able to return to normal activity. Now, I get fatigued really fast. I get tired quickly. And so this podcast will not be your normal length of a podcast. I will do another one tonight. I feel like I can do short form. I don't know about my other show, which is a 2-hour long form conversation. I'm not there yet. It's Thursday. I hope to be back on Monday of next week, but I don't really know. But they've run every test you can run, and so far, so good. So the hope is that everything will be fine. I have a million doctor's appointments, and hopefully everything works out. So scary stuff. I am okay. I thank all of you for the DMs, the notes, the messages on Discord, everything you guys wrote. I really means the world to me. Really, it does. It was awesome to see the reaction from you guys when I told you I was sick, and then I told you I was coming back today before the Thursday night football game. And look, health is the most important thing. I'm blessed to have an incredible woman in my life who does not live here, who dropped her entire life to get on a plane to fly here to be with me for 4 days and to walk me through all the doctor's appointments and everything else that came after the TIA, which is what I had. And so now it's about recovery, and now it's about getting my stamina back. It's getting my brain back. And when I tell you I'm giving you 3 bets today, you are literally taking gambling advice from somebody with a brain injury. So full disclosure as to what these bets are being made with the condition that I am in, but I like the plays. We'll get into it. I won't go into a long breakdown of the plays, but I'm going to give them to you guys here, and you can do what you want with this here on a Thursday night. And hopefully tonight, Thursday night into Friday morning, we'll get back to regular scheduled programming for the Daily Juice podcast. But it has been a very tumultuous 5 days, and I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be upright. I'm glad to be alive, and I'm glad to be able to speak and talk and not have any, as of right now, any real lasting effects from essentially a stroke. I mean, it was a mini stroke, but it's like a heart attack. Do you have a mini heart attack? It's still a heart attack. So still had a stroke, but it was a mini stroke, and it luckily cleared up on its own, and I did not have to have surgery or anything of that like. And I'll have additional MRIs to see about lasting brain damage and everything else, which is really scary to think about. But for the most part, I'm on the mend. I feel the best today that I felt in the last 5 days. So it doesn't mean I'm going to come back roaring here. It doesn't mean I'm going to come back, on fire. I don't know. I mean, I could get out to, we're up nearly 4 units in November. So I'm kind of pissed off that this happened because we are on a roll. But unfortunately, this did go down and it did happen. But this podcast is being brought to you by DraftKings and the Pick 6 to play $5 to get $50 instantly in Pick 6 credits. That is still available for you guys at the moment. If you want to jump in and do that, we are looking forward to a lot of really cool things with DraftKings. On Sunday, we do the DraftKings Pick 6. I don't know how that went down, to be completely frank. I forget what happened on Sunday because, well, I was in the hospital all day Sunday, so I'm not sure how we did on the Pick 6, but if you guys want to do it for tonight, you can. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. 18 plus in most jurisdictions, but other age and eligibility restrictions may vary. Valid only in jurisdictions where DraftKings Pick 6 operates. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including but not limited to New York and California. Void where prohibited. Pick 6 customers, $5. You get $50 in issued as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. For terms, go to pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right, tonight we've got a rematch between the Bengals and the Ravens. High-scoring game. Crazy back-and-forth battle, right? Won by the Ravens. Everyone seems to be on the over in this game, and I don't necessarily buy it, okay? Look, I think this defense for the Ravens leaves something to be desired, and I think there's a lot of questions about this Ravens defense and whether or not they're going to be able to stop the Bengals after what happened last week and how well the Bengals played offensively. And yes, this could be a game in which you could see a high-scoring performance out of both teams, but with the total being set so high at 52.5 for this game, it just feels like on a Thursday night football game in a rematch setting with a divisional matchup, it just seems too high. And so if you want to just bet the under in this game, I think you can. And I think it would be fine to just bet the under in this game. But you guys know what I do with primetime games. This has been a profitable thing for me. I take the number and I go up on dogs. And I take the total and I go up and I go under. We've been doing this a lot, and yes, this could be an explosive, high-scoring game. We saw 79 points being scored in the first matchup, but I think if we go ahead and take the Bengals to plus 12 here and go up to 58.5 and go under, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think the way we lose this, I think if the Bengals get blown out by the Ravens, but I just don't think the Bengals are going to get blown out by the Ravens. I have a hard time seeing that, given the fact that this Bengals team is now completely with their backs against the wall. They have no choice but to go and play and win out, essentially, after what happens. But they're on the road here. They're not at home. At home, they've been a disaster. But, on the road, they haven't been awful. And I think this is an opportunity here for this Bengals team to potentially win the game outright. And I think it's going to be fun to see. But the Bengals won't have T. Higgins most likely. I think we're into a game that is in the lower 50s. I don't think we go into the upper 50s, just what we've seen on Thursday night for these teams with flags and mistakes and turnovers and sloppy play. Black and blue division lives up to its name, but we'll tease it up. Bengals plus 12 and under 58.5, 6-point teaser, same game teaser for 1.2 units. Now, unfortunately, due to the injury, the TIA that I suffered, I wasn't able to give you guys all the breakdowns and thoughts for college basketball that I wanted to. We're gonna have to build a portfolio later in the year from all this. I didn't make bets. I had planned on last weekend doing a ton of work on college basketball and getting ready for the start of the year. And unfortunately, I just wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to get the work in because obviously what happened on Saturday night. So Friday I was at Del Mar. Saturday night, I was in the hospital. So it sort of changed my ability to do the things I wanted to do college basketball-wise. But Northern Iowa tonight is taking on Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a team that just scored a ton of points in their first game up against a D3 school. And so I think we're getting a smaller number here than we should be getting. UNI is at home. They won their first game against Dubuque, 96-54, but this is a team that was picked second in the Missouri Valley Conference. This is a team that's coached by Ben Jacobson, and a guy who I've had the utmost respect for in my career. 19th season in Cedar Rapids at UNI, and it's a really hard place to play. Milwaukee is a team out of the horizon, which I think they could do some good things, but I think they're going to be overmatched here. Northern Iowa is bringing back a lot of talent. They've brought in kids in the transfer portal. I really can't wait to watch this kid, Jacob Hudson, who comes over from Chicago. And he's a senior. He's from Minnesota. He's the type of kid that thrives in the Ben Jacobson system. He's a big man that I think will put up big numbers. Titan Anderson is the forward from Iowa that is the offensive weapon for this team. They've got some transfers that I think will come off the bench here for Northern Iowa, and they're always looking at the name of the game here is defense. I think the size and the athleticism for Northern Iowa is going to be too much for Milwaukee. The game may be a bit more high scoring than people think, but given the fact that Northern Iowa, according to collegeinsider.com, their mid-major preseason top 25, Northern Iowa is a top 10 team here in the mid-major ranks, which you can debate as to what's a mid-major and what's not. Gonzaga is number 1, Grand Canyon's number 2, Princeton 3, Bradley, who was picked to win the Missouri Valley Conference, at 4, St. Mary's 5, and Vermont comes in at number 6. Then Northern Iowa. I think this team will be able to do pretty much whatever it wants. Defensively, I think they slow down Milwaukee, and I think we're going to see a 10-point or higher win for Northern Iowa, Northern Iowa, I'm going to lay the 6.5 points with Ben Jacobson here in the second game for them on this 3-game homestand to open it up. Northern Iowa tonight, minus 6.5 at home against Milwaukee for 1.1 units. And finally, to the college football game tonight that's got my attention, and I think we have a chance to jump on a typical trend that we've been betting a lot. When games have a total of 60 or higher, they're going under about a 60% clip. 62.5 for this. Coastal's at home, where they are 4-0 to the over here this season. App State is 2-2, but Appalachian State on the year is 2-5-1 or 5-2-1 to the under. This is a big number. If you look at the totals for this year for Coastal Carolina at home, 57.5. It went over by a 0.5 point against Louisiana. Old Dominion was the number that didn't make sense. That number, we talked about it. Old Dominion went in there and lost the game. Coastal won the game 45-37. That cleared it by 30.5 points. And then against Virginia, it was 52, and it went over by 15 points. William & Mary was 54.5. It went over by 6.5. This is 62.5. This is a big number. This is the second biggest number so far for App State. And when they were on the road against Louisiana, it was 64.5, and it went under by 6.5 points. Thursday, it's a short week. East Carolina was 59 for App State. That game went under by 19 points. I just think Marshall was 57. It went over by a ton. It was 52-37. App State got housed by Marshall in that game back on the 5th, 5th of October. But I just think this is going to be a lower scoring game than people think. I think this is just a run first team. I think everyone's jumping in on the over because of Coastal's 4-0, and I think we're getting an inflated line. 60.5 is a lot of points here on a Thursday between Appalachian State and Coastal. App State's only averaging 25 points per game. Coastal's averaging 29 points per game. And I know App State's defense has not been good. They're giving up 38 points a game. That's not great. And Coastal's giving up 34 points per game. But I just think we see these teams look to run the football and try to play ball control. Both offenses rank in the top 75 for rushing offenses. And I just don't think we see a lot of big explosive plays here, and hopefully not a lot of turnovers. I'm going to play the under here. We're going to go under 62.5 for Coastal and Appalachian State for 1.1 units. All right, so 3 plays for us here today on a Thursday. Bengals plus 12 teased with the under 58.5 for 1.2 units. Northern Iowa minus 6.5 at home against Milwaukee in college basketball, and under 62.5 for Coastal and App State. That game in the college football ranks. Again, thank you for all the messages. Hopefully we'll keep rolling here with the Daily Juice. My name is Matt Peralta. You guys can follow me across all my socials at Sports Talk Matt. Every morning, most mornings, it's the Daily Juice podcast presented by DraftKings.